Hi, this is the Tolkien Curmudgeon talking to you about The Rings of Power, Season 2, Episode 4. I really dislike this one a lot, and I tried making a video where I was going to be a little bit less uncharitable, but I'm not sure it really worked out, but I'm going to give it another go. First of all, I'd like to say that when I laugh at or mock this TV show, I'm not really trying to mock or laugh at the people who make it. In fact, I kind of feel sorry for the set dressers or the costume designers and people like that who are putting in a lot of hard work to make this a good show, and maybe the show's not working out as well as some people would like. What I really object to is the writing, the plotting, the distortions of, I think, Tolkien's vision. So anyway, with that said, I'd like to make a little metaphor about it, and that is that imagine you buy a chemical drain opener and you pour it into your drain, which is all clogged up, and then it just goes glub, 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 and then nothing happens. You could get really angry and say, oh, those terrible people who made this, why did they do that? Or you can just go, oh, how can this be a product? I paid money for this. Why? Why is this happening? And that's more like the real feeling I have. Okay, sometimes I go a little bit too far maybe, but okay. So first of all, I'd like to say what I really hated about this episode was it was back to back to back to back these taking things out of context from the movies or the books and recycling dialogue from of old, you could say. There's a commentator who writes for Forbes magazine. He also does YouTube. His name's Eric Kane, and he came up with this really interesting expression. He calls them rotten Easter eggs. Well, I think that we have seen perhaps some of the stinkiest Easter eggs so far in this episode. For example, Galadriel says, "Those hills are evil." And how is that an Easter egg? Well, I think it kind of echoes Eomer's line in the Two Towers movie when he says, that mountain is evil, which is not one of the best lines from the film. Anyway, I burst out laughing when Galadriel said that, because it was like, there's evil in them dar hills. It just sounded so ridiculous. I started laughing. And then I think the stinkiest of these rotten Easter eggs that we've had so far is near the end of the episode, Galadriel is charging the orcs and he says, "Go back to the shadow." She doesn't even change it at all. So I'm beginning to feel that by the end of this TV show, we will end up hearing just about every meme line or famous phrase from the books or the movie, especially the movies, that's out there. For example, probably we're going to end up at some point hearing a character say something like, one does not simply walk into Mordor, which is not in the books, right? So and they might tweak it a little bit and they'll say, one does not just saunter into Mordor. And they'll think that's genius to just change it a little bit. Well, who knows? It seems that they've got 3 more years, or I forget how many, 4 more years to do this. Okay, so let's talk about Tom Bombadil first. So this episode had Tom Bombadil, and he's the un-Tom Bombadil, just like we've got un-Gandalf and un-Hobbits and un-Galadriel. I really think it was really strange to hear Tom repeat almost verbatim many of his lines from the Fellowship of the Ring, as if he has some kind of pre-recorded chat in his head that if you ask him, "Who are you? What are you, Tom Bombadil?" and then he'll come out with this speech about being the eldest and so on. So he repeats himself every 3,000 years? I don't know. And then the episode itself, an episode with Tom, Gandalf gets swallowed up by a giant olive tree. So, it's an olive tree, not a willow? That makes it fine? Or is Tom Bombadil always followed by some black-hearted tree that tries to kill people? And Tom comes out singing a song, and it was strangely acted, I thought, in that particular case. He doesn't even really seem to be connecting with the tree. It's almost like he's singing into the air rather than to the tree. I feel very uncomfortable with the way that I get the vibe from this, that they're kind of making Tom out to be God. You know, like the theory. I made a whole video called "Who Isn't Tom Bombadil," and one of the theories that I tried to debunk is the idea that Tom Bombadil is God incarnate in this universe, and I totally disagree with that. But the way they did it, I feel like they might be going for that, almost like a kind of Mormon. The early Mormons believed in this concept of Adam was God the Father was Adam, and I feel like, I don't know, it seems like that, and I really object to that. That the idea that Tom is anybody other than Tom. He's just Tom. That's all. So I tried to cover that in the other video. Then the Hofflings in this version. They come across what they're called stewards, and the way it's shot, there's no other people around who are tall, so they don't look short. So you see this guy come along, and he looks like Big Bird, and he looks big, so he looks like this big giant guy. And then you get to the village, and you can forget that everybody's a halfling. They just start to look like regular people. And when the bounty hunters, who are full-size humans, show up, they look like giants, and that's just how my mind anyway interprets it. It doesn't look good, and also actually I do admire the work that a lot of the set dressers are doing, but in the case of the Stewards Village, it looked kind of shoddy to me, so I didn't like that. Arondir, Isildur, and the new character Estrid. Wow, they fall into this mud thing, and they get swallowed up by a mudworm. And Arondir fights his way out like Beowulf from the Robert Zemeckis animated version, and it's very derivative of that. And then, of course, he has to throw in this line about there are nameless things in the deep places of this world. It's just changing uplines, and that's not a deep place; it's a puddle in a forest. Other things that they got strange in here in this was the Barrow Downs. They go, and the Barrow Whites. I'm sorry, there's no downs there. Downs are hills. This one there's some tombs, okay, the Barrows, but they're in a forest, not hills. Barrow Downs are hills. Why do they change these things? The Baranduin River is this giant ravine, very deep, and how is that going to be the case? I don't understand. Why are they changing even the landscape like that? Anyway, another thing that I think is strange is they're going to steal so many things from the Third Age and put them in the Second Age. It seems, especially if you watch the preview. It seems for sure they're going to have the hobbits are eventually going to arrive at the Shire, and they name drop the Suza or the Suzat as the Westron name of the Shire, supposed to be like a little Easter egg for the lore freaks like me, but it doesn't sound right at all when we know the lore, and then we think, well, that doesn't happen in the Second Age. And the Balrog doesn't destroy Moria in the Second Age. So this show, it's confusing because if you don't know the lore, probably it's incomprehensible. And then if you do know the lore, you're watching and thinking, why? Why did they do this? It's mixed up. It seems so wrong. Who is this show for? It just seems so greedy. They're grabbing everything they can from different things of Tolkien and stuffing it in there. So it took me a long time to make this video because I kind of dreaded making it. I felt like, what can I really say? It's becoming a real slog to watch it. But I'm gonna trudge on through this show and watch it all. Thank you. See you later.